It had all been arranged by telegram. Jeremy Portage was to look out for a colored chauffeur in a gray uniform with a carnation in his buttonhole, and the colored chauffeur was to look out for a middle-aged Englishman carrying the poetical works of Wordsworth. In spite of the crowds at the station, they found one another without difficulty. "Mr. Stoit's chauffeur? Mr. Portage, sir?" Jeremy nodded, and, his Wordsworth in one hand, his umbrella in the other, half extended his arms in the gesture of a self-deprecatory mannequin exhibiting, with a full and humorous consciousness of their defects, a deplorable figure accentuated by the most ridiculous clothes. A poor thing, he seemed to be implying, but myself. A defensive and, so to say, prophylactic disparagement had become a habit with him. He resorted to it on every sort of occasion. Suddenly, a new idea came into his head. Anxiously, he began to wonder whether, in this democratic Far West of theirs, one shook hands with the chauffeur, particularly if he happened to be a blackamoor, just to demonstrate that one wasn't a pukka sahib, even if one's country did happen to be bearing the white man's burden. In the end, he decided to do nothing, or, to be more accurate, the decision was forced upon him. As usual, he said to himself, deriving a curious wry pleasure from the recognition of his own shortcomings. While he was hesitating what to do, the chauffeur took off his cap and, slightly overacting the part of an old-world Negro retainer, bowed, smiled toothily, and said, "Welcome to Los Angeles, Mr. Portage, sir." Then, changing the tone of his chanting drawl from the dramatic to the confidential, "I should have knowed you by your voice, Mr. Portage," he went on, "even without the book." Jeremy laughed a little uncomfortably. A week in America had made him self-conscious about that voice of his, a product of Trinity College, Cambridge, 10 years before the war. It was a small, fluty voice, suggestive of evensong in an English cathedral. At home, when he used it, nobody paid any particular attention. He had never had to make jokes about it, as he had done in self-protection about his appearance, for example, or his age. Here in America, things were different. He had only to order a cup of coffee, or ask the way to the lavatory, which anyhow wasn't called the lavatory in this disconcerting country, for people to stare at him with an amused and attentive curiosity, as though he were a freak on show in an amusement park. It had not been at all agreeable. "Where's my porter?" he said fussily in order to change the subject. A few minutes later they were on their way. Cradled in the back seat of the car, out of range, he hoped, of the chauffeur's conversation, Jeremy Portage abandoned himself to the pleasure of merely looking. Southern California rolled past the windows. All he had to do was to keep his eyes open.